Picture this. It's the dead of winter, 1879. We're in the quiet, snow-dusted village of Hartley-Wick, tucked right into the chalk downlands of Wiltshire. In this explainer, we're unpacking an absolute masterclass in atmospheric storytelling and relaxation. We're not looking at some high-stakes, edge-of-your-seat thriller here. No, this is all about how a story can carefully and intentionally build a world of total calm. We're going to deconstruct the architecture of a gentle mystery, and as we'll see, the discovery of a forgotten room ends up teaching us something incredibly profound about time, craft, and literally just resting exactly where we need to be.
Just look at this opening description. The author doesn't just casually mention it's early morning. They anchor us right in the texture of the light itself. It's brilliant. This is exactly how you establish a low-stakes, wildly cozy atmosphere. Right off the bat, we meet our protagonist, 51-year-old Miss Maud Fenna. She's a baker, and you can practically smell the flour, the ancient stone, and the wood smoke swirling around her. It's language like this that hooks you in, not by jacking up your heart rate, but by actively lowering it. It's telling you, hey, you're in safe hands here. You're wrapped in this amber light, completely insulated from the hustle and bustle of the modern world.
And that feeling of safety? It's built on a rock-solid foundation of absolute reliability. Maud has been running this village bakehouse the exact same way for 30 years. 30! She took it over when she was just 21 from old Mrs. Plum. And she knew, almost instantly, that this quiet, repetitive life was exactly her calling. There wasn't some grand passing of the torch ceremony either. She just took the ledger, grabbed the key, and got to work. She's got this quiet competence about her. She provides everything the village needs and asks for absolutely nothing in return. For generations, Hartley-Wick has basically set its clocks to the warm, reliable smell of her morning bread. Check out this beautiful, totally unhurried timeline. The author uses this rhythmic morning schedule to just wash you in calm predictability. We follow Maud waking up in the freezing mineral cold of a Wiltshire winter at 3 a.m. We watch her light the lamps, feed the ancient brick oven, and mix a leaven that's literally been kept alive since before she was born. By walking us through every meticulous, patient step well before those first customers arrive at 8 a.m., the story shows us, rather than just telling us, that it's okay to relax. The world has rules here, and those rules are steady and they are safe.
But, every story needs that inciting incident, right? It happens during Maud's quiet hour, that little window between mixing the dough and baking it, when she's just sitting on her three-legged stool in the back room sipping tea. She notices something. The south wall, the section she always thinks of as the cold wall. Well, it's warm. Not just a little tepid, but steadily, deeply warm. So here's our mystery. But look at how it's framed. It's gentle. It sparks this quiet curiosity instead of a sudden spike of anxiety or adrenaline. There's zero sense of danger here, just a really intriguing puzzle sitting quietly in the dark.
So what does Maud do? Well, she certainly doesn't panic. She doesn't run off to grab a sledgehammer. No, she rests by her fire later that afternoon and starts making these incredibly logical, level-headed deductions. Could it be radiated heat from her oven that's just been absorbed over centuries? Or maybe it's the geothermal warmth of the porous Chop Valley. The area is known for warm springs. Or could it be something else entirely? Because the warmth she felt, it was a bit humid, almost like the living heat of fermentation. Framing it this way is such a fantastic narrative choice because it keeps the stakes so grounded. It perfectly honors her highly practical nature as a master baker.
Now this is absolutely crucial, what Maud does next. Or actually, scratch that, it's about what she doesn't do right away. She waits. She simply goes about her afternoon chores. She feeds the leaven, scrubs the bakehouse, preps the flour sacks. She totally refuses to let curiosity override her duty. It's only when the work is fully done that she grabs a lamp to inspect that wall. And that is when she finds it, a section of stone set just a bit lower than eye level that's fitted differently. And right there at the edge, a gap, thin as a finger, laid with absolutely no mortar, a seam. The restraint in the storytelling here is just brilliant. It makes the ultimate discovery so much more satisfying.
Which brings us to the actual uncovering. Pay attention to the deliberate pacing of her actions here. She waits 2 full days before even attempting to open that wall. When she finally does, she uses a short iron bar, gently working it into the seam. The stones loosen up with almost zero resistance, and she carefully sets each one on the floor, in exact order, so she can put them right back later. By deconstructing this incredibly methodical process, the story dodges that typical thriller-style urgency. Instead, it honors Victorian craftsmanship and the careful nature of a baker who deeply understands that good things just cannot be rushed.
And when she finally steps through, wow, the payoff is so rich.
The author totally immerses us in this deep, quiet history using the best sensory details. Maud steps into a tiny, perfectly preserved room. The vaulted ceiling is catching that amber lamplight. The packed earth floor actually has a slight depression in the center, literally worn smooth by centuries of someone standing in that exact spot. And along the walls, 7 shallow stone niches carved perfectly at arm's height. The air in there is warm, humid, and smells heavily of ancient leaven. She didn't uncover some spooky tomb or a chest of gold, she found a dough room, a secret space built specifically, entirely, for bread to rise.
Now, think about this comparison, because it represents a massive thematic shift in the entire narrative. For 30 years, Maud has been using the proving shelf right beside her oven. It was reliable, it was, almost warm enough, but it was entirely dependent on the ambient heat of the room. But this hidden dough room, it has perfect humidity, a deep, steady, unchanging temperature. It wasn't just making do, it was built specifically for this one exact task. This beautifully illustrates the shift from a craftsman doing good work in an okay environment to discovering the ultimate, perfect environment to do their absolute best work.
Which brings us to this staggering number, 30. 30 years. Just let that sink in. Think about the profound, deeply humbling realization Maud experiences right in this moment. She spent 3 decades mastering her craft, refining every technique, learning every single pop and creak of her oven, truly believing she had hit the ceiling of what was possible in that bakehouse, only to realize that the absolute perfect conditions for her craft had been hiding literally 12 inches away, behind a stone wall, her entire career. It's such a beautiful metaphor, isn't it? Sometimes the ideal conditions we're desperately looking for are so much closer than we ever realized. So of course, Maud has to test the room out. She proves her dough in those ancient stone niches, and when it bakes, it is the best bread she has ever made in her entire life. But the real emotional resolution of this explainer doesn't just come from Maud's personal satisfaction, it comes from old Mr. Crab. He's a customer who's been buying bread there for 60 years. When he tastes this new loaf, he just stops. He brings up his grandmother, who remembered the bread from this bakehouse tasting exactly like this when she was a little girl. The secret of the dough room wasn't fully lost to time. It was just waiting in the living memory of the village. The room and the bread essentially acted as a bridge across generations.
And what does Maud do with this massive discovery? Does she run out and tell the whole village? Hang a big sign out front? Nope. She makes a really beautiful, quiet decision. Every single day, she takes down the stones, uses the room, and then puts the stones right back. But she leaves them unmortared. She recognizes that this knowledge was lost once, but she implicitly trusts the future. By leaving those stones loose, she's ensuring that the next baker, the next generation who comes along and works hard enough to actually notice a warm wall, will be able to find the room when they're finally ready for it.
Let's really break down the core philosophy here. Patience in the bakehouse. This explainer perfectly highlights a kind of lost perspective on time and craft. True mastery isn't about forcing an outcome, is it? It's about knowing exactly when your active work is done, having the discipline to step back, and letting the conditions do the rest of the work. The dough is alive, it needs time, it needs warmth, and mostly it needs to be left alone. Maud's ultimate success wasn't about her forcing the bread to be better. It was about her finally placing it in the environment where it could become what it was always meant to be.
And that leaves us with this final, incredibly meditative thought from the source material. It's just a stunning way to wrap up our explainer today. You do not need to force anything tonight. You only need to be here, warm, at rest, in exactly the right conditions. It really asks us to look closely at our own lives. What are we trying so hard to force? Where are we settling for the imperfect shelf beside the oven, when a perfectly quiet, restful space might be waiting just inches away? I want you to take that away with you today. Think about how you might find your own perfect conditions for rest, and trust that sometimes you just need to step back and let things rise in their own time.